Gaming is often seen as a waste of time by parents, but these days we're starting to see people using it as a learning tool to engage with young minds in new and interesting ways. Let's dive into the world of gaming and talk about the experiences and moments we live through it. Please welcome our guests, Altruism and Dea D, as we talk about learning through gaming. Here with me right now, I have Michael Urdur and Adam Thomas James. We're going to be talking a little bit about learning through gaming, something I find to be very important. And I'll let you guys introduce yourselves in the order that I mentioned you. Michael.
Hey guys, so I'm Michael, otherwise known as Altruism in the crew. I am a professional teacher by day, and at night I take to the microphone as a commentator. I'm involved in a variety of aspects of esports, and my goal is to just try and build it on every level, from grassroots all the way up to the pro scene.
And I'm Adam Thomas James. I'm ACGL's education specialist. What that kind of means is I'm in charge of all the education stuff that ACGL does. So that's the high school leagues, the primary school leagues, and the university leagues. And I basically just uplift the community from there, host tournaments, and just make sure all the schools are happy in the esports ecosystem.
So a very interesting topic, definitely something we've seen more prevalence in the last few years, which, some of us maybe never thought would be something schools will be introducing. Michael, as someone who introduced your esports side of things, what differences have you noticed in education through this way of learning?
I must admit, these kids are already very excited for gaming, and so we just pull that excitement now into the classroom. They already want to be engaged. They're already focused more, and so they get a little bit competitive. Instead of kids making mistakes and being scared to do so, they now just throw caution to the wind. They want to try out more things, and it takes them even past the curriculum into a passion for any of the subjects that we can successfully integrate it.
And what do you guys... Sorry, go on.
No problem. I was just going to say, in terms of the skills that they actually learn, it's the stuff you'd usually learn in a normal sport. So it's time management, sportsmanship, communication, quick reactions, and it's anything from there, but moved on to a different passion. I'm personally a big advocate for esports being in schooling environments because I work with a lot of township schools, and in the primary schools, it's the first insight into technology being applied or IT being used. And that kind of exposure is extremely important into getting an interest in what is becoming quite a large industry. The gaming industry... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go for it.
No, so the gaming industry is growing every year. We're seeing it become so big in South Africa. And as the standpoint, the students don't have to become professional Fortnite players or things like that, earning millions of dollars, but they can become very interested in IT and use that as a path in their schooling. So we've had a lot of students that come up through primary school, and we've managed to push them in the right directions into finding high schools that are a bit more computer tech orientated. And then they push that and bring different skills into what they're already learning.
And I must admit, it's not just the skills that we're trying to teach them in the classroom or the content that we're trying to deliver. A lot of those soft skills that inherently come by playing around with games start being developed to a high degree. People start to understand how a computer works. They start to eventually build their own computers, which you don't get taught in a classroom somewhere. They start to get more proficient in handling the software. Some of them even develop an interest in coding or robotics afterwards because it's just a game. And so when you're playing a game and something goes wrong, there's not really people to call most of the time, and you end up problem solving. You end up figuring out the stuff yourself. And it means that you get tech skills, as Adam says, across the board, just because you found something to drive you, and then you try and do whatever it takes to make that work.
So gaming and technology sort of is introduced into schooling and introduced to learners of all different types as an additive to traditional learning. Why do you think this is beneficial for learners? Why do you think it's beneficial to have this different type of learning, I suppose?
Everyone has their own special skills, right? For a long time, traditional sports has been the only place where people can really shine or get recognition at their schools. And the nerds, as we have always been called, have now got an opportunity to shine. They get more confidence in what they're doing. When it comes to learning, they want to engage more. Everyone works better and learns better when they're starting to engage. Some people can read a textbook and get the information. Others like to listen to information as it's presented. But everyone has lived their entire lives learning through experience. You learn not to put your hand on a hot plate because it hurts, right? You get that immediate feedback. And so that instant feedback, that excitement when you get something right is there to always build up whatever knowledge you're trying to build. And when something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. Games have amazing respawn mechanics or other things like that that allow you to fix your mistakes. You explore a little bit more instead of trying to get to a single goal necessarily. And especially when there's not just one method to get to that goal, it allows people to creatively think however their mind already works, they can start applying that to the new situation with gusto.
100%. And I'll just add on for specific games that do help with or help in the classroom with a lot of the subjects that they're being introduced to. There's Minecraft for Education, which is through Microsoft, and they build through there. They can honestly make their own playground, and it becomes a lot more immersive. Stuff like Assassin's Creed, they have an education version, which just, it takes off the gameplay mechanics, but then you meet Leonardo da Vinci in Rome, basically, and just play through historical figures and being actually in the settings like that. Stuff like VR is extremely helpful at just adding some variety and a different version to what you're already teaching. I've been in some science classrooms in primary schools that was demoed for me, where they had little VR headsets for the students and they could go into the ocean, swim around a bit, and then there's always a jump scare with a great white, just being around the corner. And that really gets the kids excited. They scream, they get excited. It's a really awesome way to learn about natural history, about so many other facets of learning.
I mean, if you think about it, words have their own meaning. And so if you as a teacher have any sort of personal bias or misunderstandings, or you just can't really enunciate properly, you tend to put in misunderstandings into your students just by the way you're delivering content. Pictures are pretty limited in some aspects where it's one snapshot. You don't get to see the whole world. You don't see how things are connected. And so, giving a student 20 pictures is great, but it's the first step. As soon as you get interactive, they can now explore an area. If they're not particularly interested in one aspect of it, they go find something else that they really want to get to see. So like Adam says, Minecraft in education is one of the best tools that has been delivered in terms of gaming in education space, because the creativity is there. Someone might have a fine arts background or just a geography background or a science background. Let's try and rephrase. Or they might just have a science background where they don't know how to make it look pretty, but they know how to make it work. And then you can start getting kids that have different skills linking together, where one of them will solve the problems and the other one will help refine it and get that design mentality behind them. And so the whole idea of different thinkings coming together, gaming also allows people to collaborate. Minecraft is a 5-player game. And so you now get all of the teamwork and the patience and the empathy being built into the end products, which is kind of what we're wanting them to be able to do in the real world. Very few things in the real world are, here's the information, now regurgitated in the correct way. It's, here's the information, synthesize it, and start developing solutions with the people around you to create something amazing.
Right. Sorry, Adam.
Right. I just want to say, if you think about back to when you were in a high school or primary school, you had the most boring way to learn, which was just off the whiteboard. We added PowerPoints, and then we added music and video additionals. And then maybe we got physical with actual practicals and examples of electricity being used or anything like that. Video gaming is just the next step in being interactive. It's just the most exciting, latest way you could teach a student that they could really respond to.
An actual experience. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to speak a little bit about how parents and teachers can get involved, maybe addressing some of their concerns when it comes to gaming. So we'll see you after the break.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark.
Hey, what's up, dude? Terraria. What's up, guys? Voljan Volsmith, and I'm resident beta for Bravado Gaming.
Voljan, what's your favourite map and why?
Nuke, because Kian hates it.
That's a very boring answer.
You know he actually enjoys it. In the car, he was like, dude, we should play Nuke. And he was like, what is happening?
Who's the most likely in the team to forget to buy armor?
If you say me, you're dead.
Say me, I throw the phone at you.
I don't know, dude. I guess Mushan, yeah.
For 10 marks.
You're the only one I've seen it from.
Okay, fair. Voljan, what's your favorite player of all time? And you can't say me.
Just say it.
Probably Nico, dude. Because he's cracked.
Same thing as saying me.
I'm gonna get one. Most irritating player to go against.
In this scene.
In the scene, locally, yeah.
I guess it has to be Flexi, because he just seems super hard to kill the whole time. He just lives.
9 lives, dude. He's a cat.
He's got 9 lives.
Thoughts on CS2?
Right now it's super scuffed, but I'm keen. We'll see what happens. They gotta fix it though.
If you could live in any country to play CS, where would it be?
I don't know, Serbia?
Serbian goal.
If you could replace anyone in an international scene, like in all the top orgs and stuff, if you could replace someone in the team, what team and who?
I want to say, because we just spoke about it, floppy in complexity.
Dude, that's a nice one.
Welcome back. We are talking to Adam and Mike about learning through gaming. There's so much to cover. I want to start again with Adam. Adam, what do you think good games are in order to propel learning? Specific game titles for specific learning areas. What can you suggest?
So for inside the classroom, if you're using it as a learning tool, then it would definitely be Minecraft. It would be the Assassin's Creed education mode. And it would also be any VR thing that can be interactive. Outside the classroom, in terms of games that are competitive, that they might play in terms of their extracurriculums and things like that, you obviously have to look at age-appropriate titles. So I'm going to say the youngest primary school is a good place to start. The tactical games are very important. It encourages brain functions. So the simplest one I tell everyone to do is just start with chess. Chess online, chess.com. Very easy. You can even run it from your cell phone or a browser. You don't need a gaming PC or a PlayStation, anything to do it from there. Maybe the next level is, again, with age appropriateness, is Clash Royale. It's just a strategy game where you send your forces to fight another person. And then as they get into the team-based mechanics, because those were both single-player games, you could look at Rocket League, because there's a lot of really good sportsmanship, how to treat your opponent, how to communicate with your teams. And it's one of the fastest growing ones in South Africa, especially because we have local servers, which makes it a lot more pleasurable to play.
Mike?
Some of the best implementation of gaming in terms of curriculum or what the students are trying to learn in a classroom is I've also seen some great coding-based games, where the students are learning programming languages and programming logic, which is so important everywhere. These days, you can't do video editing without needing some sort of coding in it. And so the fact that you've got Scratch.io, stuff like that, gets the kids to use block-based logic. They learn how to type better. They learn the importance of really phrasing things well and thinking through logical steps to be able to then bring it back into real world skills that they'll apply then onwards. We've done a bunch of simulation-based games. Adam's mentioned stuff like virtual reality, but there's FET simulations, which are effectively cartoonish-looking simulations, and we use them all the way in science, whether it's learning circuits, the guys can connect the pieces themselves and then take little measurements, and you can use those for actual assessment practicals or just to explore a topic. They start bouncing a ball from different heights and see how that affects the energy of the ball at the top versus at the bottom. They started crashing cars together and see how momentum is conserved. And I mean, this is all the way, I'm a high school teacher, and this is from grade 8 until matric. We still use every one of these things. The students never worry about getting things wrong, or they start extending themselves into areas that they ask questions beyond what we are going to test them on ever. And it just deepens that initial understanding as well.
That must be super rewarding, where there's that interest, that like really rich interest in their learning field. So I want to address...
Sorry, like just on the end of that then. One of the best questions that I love to ask my students, or at least when they ask me, so what happens if? I can now say with complete confidence, we'll try it out. Go for it. See what happens. And then you get the smiles, the light up of their face when something unexpected happens. And then it starts a big discussion in the more theoretical aspect outside of the game about how do we explain this? And they come to their own conclusions just from what happens if.
Yeah, and in real life, you would have to, have the basketball, have the water balloons, have the crocodile farm. Whereas with gaming, we can bring all of those things to us, right?
Exactly. It actually gives you experiences that are impossible to have in every classroom, whether it's from a financial aspect where you don't have the money to buy all this equipment and run all these tests or buy the chemicals, to adventures outside of reality, whether we're talking about exploring space or Adam mentioned going deep in the ocean. There is no way to take a class full of students out to the different planets in the solar system and see what they're like. So we get to break every boundary because everything is possible in the virtual world.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, it's like, this topic can go so many directions. Adam, I want to ask you, we're speaking about kind of like fun games, games designed for fun, and then we have games specifically designed for education. How can we sort of address concerns where it comes to students or young people gaming online and being exposed to, other people who are playing games who are complete strangers? How do we sort of monitor, mediate? How do we control sort of their experiences online or in games that might be violent, or where they're kind of exposed to things that we can't control or see all the time?
So, I mean, from the communication aspect, where you're speaking to other people online, complete strangers, it's a very important first step for internet literacy. It's a skill that needs to be taught to children from a young age, from teachers' side or from parents' side. But it's just the responsibility on how to behave online, how that I shouldn't put all my personal details in a visible place. But what helps that in the competitive environment is that there are lots of features that are from the games that are aimed at younger children that take away that aspect. Rocket League doesn't have voice chat really built into the game, unless you're playing with friends, etc. Fortnite doesn't have any communication to opponents. So there are, and you can restrict that further depending on going through the settings. But I do think it's part of a parent's responsibility as they would go to a soccer match and support them, just to make sure, take some time to set up what they want their child to be exposed to. For a lot of the leagues that are currently in South Africa that are geared towards students, obviously privacy and safety is the highest concern. So a lot of the communication is obviously monitored by the admins in the leagues, and then also making sure that sportsmanlike behavior does carry throughout.
I think it's very important that we realize you can't control everything. And the rest of the real world, when they leave school, isn't controlled. And so, like Adam says, it's not necessarily always about restricting everything that they can do. It's about learning how to approach these more dangerous or more worrying situations. And as long as you've got that, we can start putting some kiddie gloves on them right now and restrict their access and slowly introduce them to the more toxic or potentially toxic environments that are out there. Like Adam says, it's about just learning what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. When they do something wrong, we chat to them about it. We can monitor that a little bit more closely. When they start to get themselves into some danger, thankfully it's online. And so, there's not the real world danger. If you say the wrong thing on a rugby field, the guy's going to punch you. Online, you said the wrong thing and you've still got that time to come back and be like, listen, that was inappropriate. We need to build maturity through exposure, but slowly and incrementally through whatever platforms we can.
In terms of the actual violence of the games that you spoke about, a lot of them are tuned down, especially the competitive ones we played. For instance, Fortnite has eliminations. No one's being killed, no one's being eliminated.
Yes.
And there's
No blood.
There's no blood, things like that. Obviously, if you get to like CSGO or the more 18 plus games, then that's different. But for a lot of the school leagues, at least, there's hardcore age restrictions where you have to have a parent's consent and things like that. So the violence aspect shouldn't come through. And if it is, the parent should probably know about it because they're paying for the games in a lot of the cases in the first place.
I think super useful to know. I've even learned a lot through chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you soon. Thank you again to our guests Mike and Adam for their time. This was sadly the last episode of the season, but we will be back soon enough with more gaming content to enjoy together.